Who is Malice? Let me explain. Before this video starts, please keep the comments civil and normal. I understand many of you have opinions about the Invisible Woman, but they are not appropriate on my channel, especially not on this video because it handles some dark topics. Please refrain from commenting gross, negative, or inappropriate things, and if for some reason you absolutely need to comment on Susan, please stick to calling her pretty or something similar. With Marvel Rivals Season 1 out today, their skin of Susan Richards is Malice, which thematically goes along with Reed's, as both the Maker and Malice are evil versions of the heroes. But unlike the Maker, Malice is actually a canon character and the story around it is certainly something. Before Malice became a thing, Reed and Sue had their first child, Franklin, and were expecting another, but tragedy struck. Sue had suffered a miscarriage, and this naturally caused a lot of grief and severely hurt her mental health, resulting in issue 280 of the Fantastic Four. Here, Psycho Man and Hate Monger exploited Susan's trauma by manipulating her into becoming Malice, who went on to defeat She-Hulk. The Fantastic Four soon arrived and found out about Susan, but in her angered state, Malice was able to defeat them all using her powers to their full extent. This made Reed realize there was no way to physically win this fight, so he had to break the persona by making Sue truly hate him, resulting in Reed insulting her until he could physically slap her out of it. This worked and the day was saved, but their already strained relationship became worse. Although defeated, Malice wasn't gone and remained in the back of Susan's mind until Infinity War, where the persona returned and fought Susan for her own mind. Susan ultimately defeated Malice, but because of the current events, Susan realized her powers might be needed and merged their personalities. Because of this, Susan was now an angrier and more violent character, but this story gets even more complicated when Sue's teenage son from an alternate timeline shows up and got rid of Malice from Sue's mind. But in order to do that, he accidentally gained Malice, which haunted him until issue 392, where an evil version of Reed known as the Dark Raider was defeated by forcing him to bear the Malice persona. But that's where the story ends, as Dark Raider was destroyed when he was thrown into the distortion area of the negative zone, and the identity hasn't shown up since. In my opinion, this was a very strange series of issues, and I only actually read what I needed, so I don't know what happened in between, but this just wasn't very enjoyable. I feel like this should have stayed in the past, and if Rivals wanted a villain skin for Sue, they could have used her Cancerverse version. I understand that may sound wild out of context, but the Cancerverse is a universe where death no longer exists, and everyone is basically evil. That's a huge oversimplification, but that's all you gotta know just to understand why she's evil, and I just really think this would have been a better option for a skin.